Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is ScryMind, and this is going to be a random versus random game on Twisted Meadows. I am going to be the purple player who gets orc, and my opponent is going to be the orange player who gets human. And I've played this guy several times. His APM is pretty good. He's a pretty decent player, to be honest. For some reason, lately when I've been playing him, the load time for these games is like 2 or 3 minutes or something. It's kind of weird. I don't know, like if it's a load hack, if it's lag. I don't exactly understand these things, but either way, this guy is going to offer generally a pretty good game here. So he's going to be going for sort of a standard strategy, Archmage Footman. I'm going to be going this time for a pretty standard Blade Master and Grunt opening. I go ahead and tell my opponents my race on this account. I've been doing that just sort of for fun. It's kind of interesting to go ahead and give away the game. He does scout anyway, just because you can't always trust people, of course, on the internet and all that jazz. So he scouts. I see that he's human. I sort of assume that he came from the left, since that's what it looked like to me. So that is going to be my destination. I want to make sure he doesn't get an easy creep camp, or doesn't easily creep the Goblin Laboratory here, because a lot of humans like to do that, and I got lucky with the spawns. Spawning near his Goblin Laboratory, would allow me to sort of punish him pretty hard if he did go there. But being as how he scouted, he probably decided he was going to go for the Knoll camp instead. Pretty good decision. I do run into this peasant and get the kill here, and I see that he's not going for the laboratory. I go run towards his base and decide I'm going to kill this peasant first, and then I think, okay, he's either doing the green. I run by this mercenary camp, make sure he's not doing that. Now I assume he's either doing the green or the Knoll camp. I see that he's brought the militia, so most likely the Knoll camp. So I get one peasant kill here. I'm going to get another peasant kill, and get the grunt to focus the other peasant here. And so I'm going to get 3 peasant kills. So that's pretty much as good as I could hope for. Now he's doing he's doing the smart thing. He's continuing to creep. He wants to get level 3 on his Archmage. So now I'm like, okay, I don't know where he's at. I don't want to go chasing him around the map. I don't have boots of speed or anything, so I'm just gonna go for this farm here. He's lost some peasants. I figure his wood economy might have taken some, might be delayed. He does have enough to tech here. He's got 6 wood peasants, but as he's teching, he's not going to be able to replace those 3 peasants that he lost. And he's got this footman here, which is taking a lot of damage already. I've got a grunt over here taking out this farm. I'm doing damage to this farm. He's going to be repairing it, so there's 2 peasants that are not going to be harvesting wood. He pulls a 3rd one here. I see that I might be able to get some damage in there, so I go for the hit. And actually realize I can reach this other peasant as well, so that's going to be sort of crazy. It doesn't look like he's really in range, but luckily for me, I'm going to get another peasant kill here. So, and now he's going at my main base. So I decide, okay, I need to TP here. He's level 2. He's got, of course, water elementals and footmen, and I do not want to start losing burrows here. So I'm almost to tier 2. I've got a war mill going up. Let's see, I'm slightly ahead in terms of tech. So it looked like he clicked my town hall there. I don't know if he's like a hacker to see how far my tech was, or just, but whatever. He clicks it, and he did have vision there. I was just not sure why you would click it otherwise. But at any rate, I'm going to go immediately back to his base with the grunts. Now, I want to get a boots of speed on the Blade Master, but he's actually already purchased it from the shop. Pretty smart decision. He's got a gloves of haste. And now he wants to come back here and keep the pressure up. He wants to keep me out of his base because he just feels like killing the burrows is sort of a bigger priority. And also sticking around my base. Potentially he could cancel some tier 2 buildings and stuff. But I've got the Blade Master left behind. I pick up a Staff of Teleportation and a Circlet of Nobility. And while I would love to have the boots of speed to really pressure him here, the circlet's going to be useful. Staff of teleportation, if I need to get to my army or back to my base, can do that. So he doesn't really have enough footmen and water elementals to deal with all these burrows and sort of me repairing it. And in the meantime, I didn't point out that I threw up a war mill on the sort of on the way to tier 2 with the intention of towering him. And really, I'm just trying to throw just more at him than he can handle, because I don't really want to get into a long game against him. In the late game, he's got casters. You can get tri-hero. It's just going to be really. I felt like I had an advantage that I could press. Killing those peasants. If we look at his wood count, he's only at 101 wood, and he just added his second hero, but he can't build an Arcane Sanctum right now, and that's not likely to change anytime soon. Maybe he does finally get enough to build one Arcane Sanctum. In the meantime, though, I'm killing all of his footmen, and I've got healing salves, so he's trying to decide what he wants to focus down. Nothing is really a great target for him. He definitely doesn't want the watchtowers going up. But if he focuses the watchtowers, my grunts are just getting free shots on everything he's got, and I can just cancel these watchtowers. I'm gonna lose half the resources, but that's fine. It's throwing too much at him that he can handle, and he's taking a lot of damage on his Archmage. And again, micro is really important here. As I say that, I sort of poorly micro the grunt, but I do end up killing the Archmage, as I was able to sort of path him a lot of times with the grunts and get kills there. So you don't want to be chasing things, chasing footmen and the Archmage and everything around with the grunts. The grunts are slow, and again, the Blade Master is pretty quick, but in battles you want to make sure your units aren't just wasting time, running around, not doing any damage. So I tried to make sure that anytime he was running a unit or a hero, I would just switch targets, because his units are also melee mostly, footmen, militia, the Beastmaster. Those are melee units, and and also one thing to note about the Beastmaster summons, even though it's a little bit of a weird choice. I know sometimes humans will add the Beastmaster and try like a tower push or something with casters, whatever. But one thing to note about the Beastmaster summons, he summons Quill Beasts, and Quill Beasts, their armor type, they take extra damage from grunts, normal attacks. So anytime you can get near the Quill Beast with grunts, go ahead and go for that kill, because it's going to go down pretty quickly. Now, I know it's a summon, so you might look at it as like, well, that's a free unit, it doesn't matter, but and it's not like magic damage or anything. So in terms of like what's the threat, you might think it's not that big of a threat, but again, the extra damage that you're gonna do against it, it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna go down pretty quickly to grunts. So if you're close to it with the grunts, go ahead and get some damage on it. They might run it around or whatever, but it's gonna be pretty useful a lot of times. So again, that was a pretty quick game, 7 minutes, and again, it was a very sort of unorthodox thing that I did, and it wasn't. It's not really my sort of general strategy as Orc to just tower rush a human. It was sort of a spur of the moment thing, based on the feel of the game. I felt like I had the advantage killing those peasants. I felt like my army could stand toe-to-toe with his pretty well. And some of that comes down to the Blade Master stats. A level 3 Archmage is very strong, but grunts against footmen, sort of gonna go towards the grunts there. Healing salves are incredibly strong. I didn't even really get to I got a couple of uses out of the healing salves that were good, but it could have been even worse. And he's not going to be able to heal his units up as well. He can get a regen scroll potentially, but he actually didn't have the vault up at any point. So he never was in a position to use the regen scroll, as he didn't have the vault. And you know, the way he was playing and stuff, he never went by his base, you know, all these things. So whereas I can, you know, heal up a little bit better with healing salves. Again, even compared to a regen scroll, the healing salve heals single targets faster. The advantage of the regen scroll is it hits, you know, multiple targets. I don't even know if there's a limit on the amount of units that a healing or a regen scroll can hit. It's obviously more than 3. Pretty much your whole army every time I've seen it used. So, so again, in terms of like the max amount of healing, you know, the regen scroll is going to win out. But in terms of like normal situations, you know, you're, especially in the early game, like this is a 7-minute game, he's probably not going to have like 8 footmen. He's probably just not going to have 8 footmen. And if he did have 8 footmen, they're probably all not going to be damaged. So, you know, you sort of, you know, there's sort of situations where the regen scroll is going to be crazy. But, you know, in terms for Orc, the healing salve is really strong. Again, it works really well with a Blade Master because his stats are such that, you know, he has a lot of armor. He's very fast, you know, and he dishes out a ton of damage. So, you know, his one weakness, arguably, is his hit points. You know, he's an agility hero. But that's really offset by his armor. He sort of acts like a hero that has, you know, that can tank a lot of damage because A, he's got a lot of armor, you know, he's fast, and he's got Windwalk. So even if he gets like to 100 hit points or something in the early game, against most heroes, you know, he can just Windwalk away, heal salve, you know, heal up for 400 hit points, and, you know, 400 plus 100, 500, you know, I want to say he's at like 700 and something, 700 something hit points max at like level 1. So, you know, you're pretty much healing, you know, 80% of the way with a heal salve, you know, if it goes the whole, you know, if you get the full use of the heal salve. So again, heal salve is very efficient. The Blade Master generally very powerful. The Archmage sort of shines. He sort of shines in the early game, and then he shines a little bit when he gets level 3, and then the late game, you know, level 3 water elementals, you know, long drawn out battles with Brilliant Zora, you know, can start to really, you know, sort of lean towards the human. You know, something like a fast expansion, having to worry about that. Human casters, very strong. You know, human tri-hero, it just gets crazy. And then if they get to like Griffins and Knights, you know, Orc sort of struggles against some of these things, I would say. But the Blade Master sort of goes pretty well toe-to-toe with any hero, generally. Even though he did get the boost of speed, that would have been a big difference in this game. If I had the boost of speed and he didn't, you know, it would have really been no contest in a lot of these battles because he couldn't even, like, stand in and take any amount of damage with his Archmage because I could just very quickly chase him down and, you know, really either kill him or force him to run way before he's, you know, even really low on hit points. So again, I think this game was fairly unique in that I did a sort of oddball strategy, but it was a pretty good counter based on, you know, what was happening in the game. You know, if I hadn't have killed those peasants as he was, you know, when he was militia creeping, he probably techs maybe a little quicker. He definitely would have been able to get the Arcane Sanctums going up a lot easier. Again, he didn't actually get them up at all in this game. But if he would have had the wood, you know, it wouldn't have been nearly as troubling for him to, you know, have to repair that farm, you know, and all this. So he could have built the Arcane Sanctums. And then getting out a couple of sorceresses would have made a big difference there against the towers, against the grunts. You know, slow, I didn't have a counter there for slow yet. You know, sorceresses do extra to watchtowers if they would have gotten up. They do extra to grunts. You know, they don't take extra from grunts. So, you know, that would have been a pretty different sort of situation for me if he would have started adding in sorceresses. maybe a priest or two to keep his units healed. But again, I pressured, things that I could pressure. Try not to waste time. If I tried to like run after his army and chase them in the early game, especially without boosted speed, I'm not going to be, the only thing that can catch, maybe catch his footman is the Blade Master. And, his Archmage is going to be fine running away. And then, neither of us are leveling, but then he's going to get, if neither of us level, he's probably going to have the advantage with casters at tier 2, potentially. So, and you have to get, if you want to get Dispel, you've got to get either Shaman or Adept Spirit Walkers, and it takes a bit of time, and it's just, so I'd rather just try to, as it went, I would rather just try to tower, and it worked out well. Now you do need to be sure to cancel your towers if you're going to do this. As I said, the difference between losing 50% of the resources on a tower and giving them 0 experience, or I think they do get experience killing towers going up. If they kill it, though, you're definitely gonna lose all the resources that you put in. So you lose twice as many resources if you don't cancel it. So that's really going to hurt you. Now, as I kept canceling, I still had the resources to build more towers, to rebuild them and cancel and rebuild them. Because if I didn't cancel them, I probably wouldn't have been able to keep rebuilding them, and that would have, sort of changed the dynamic. He didn't have to focus the towers anymore because I couldn't rebuild them. He could focus other stuff. If I potentially, it's gonna delay my second hero, my tier 2 production if I go for that. Or tier 3 tech, whatever I decide to do. If I'm losing 100% of the resources on the towers, that's a pretty big amount of loss, both in wood and gold. So, you want to be aware of, not losing resources unnecessarily. Losing 50% is not great. Obviously, you'd rather have the tower go up, but if they spend all that time focusing it, you get the tower up like 30% of the way before they start focusing it, or whatever, you're going to be able to do some damage to them as they're focusing it. So, that's going to be good. I don't know what would have happened if he would have, like, called to arms all of his workers and just went all out. He might have been able to push me back there. It's sort of hard to say. Grunts do really well against militia. They do extra damage. So, it's not for sure that he would have been able to really push me off. He might have been able to cancel with towers a lot easier, but he probably would have lost too many peasants to really stay in the game. And again, you notice he didn't really have a lot of anti-air, so, if I would have been getting Wind Riders behind that rush, or that push, he really wouldn't have been in a place, especially if he called to arms everything, he really wouldn't have been in a position to fend off an air, air units. So, it's sort of, and again, also potentially Spirit Walkers. He wasn't really in a good position to counter those either. So again, all these things sort of adding up to a pretty easy win there for me. So again, it sort of speaks to the fact that you can, there's different ways to sort of go about winning a game, and it's pretty important to understand sort of the flow of the game and certain sort of strengths and weaknesses depending on how a game plays out. Knowing that he had the boots of speed, that means certain things in the battles. Him having boots of speed and me not having boots of speed, that impacts what I can really do in terms of pressuring his hero. That impacts how I need to micro my grunts. If he can run them down easier, or my Blade Master, then I need to be a little bit more careful in terms of my timings, pulling the unit back. It's going to be easier for him to run stuff down. So, need to be aware of that. Obviously, don't chase the hero with grunts. That's going to be foolish. But if he does run by your grunts, you can get some attacks in there, stuff like that. Focusing, he didn't have an arcane tower, I don't think, or at least close enough to protect that one farm or something. I don't know, but anyway, if he's got an arcane tower, that means something. You don't want to take, you don't want to get your Blade Master just, hammered by the tower. But if he's out of his base, focusing farms, especially if you get pillage, which I think I got at tier 2. I didn't have it at tier 1, sadly, but if you do have pillage to focus down farms, if you're getting all these free attacks while he's like out trying to creep, that's going to be something to do. Now, again, a lot of times that's going to be kind of a waste because, you're only going to have like 2 or 3 grunts. Normal damage is okay against fortified. It's not the worst damage type, but it's not siege damage, and Grunt's DPS is not great. So, a lot of times that's going to be a waste of time focusing down a farm. But the difference is, in this game, like I said, I killed 3 of his peasants, which means, that's going to, if he's teching and not replacing them, that's going to show up in slower wood gathering, which is going to hurt his ability to get certain things. It's going to show up somewhere, especially if you keep the pressure on him. And by focusing down a farm, either he loses that farm and allows my Blade Master to sort of get into his base and to be annoying, maybe the grunts, not to mention losing the farm itself and the food count, or the supply. That he's gonna try to repair it, which he did with 2 or 3 peasants, which he had to pull off of lumber. So that was further hurting his wood income, which sort of sets him up for certain things later. So again, that was sort of the thought process there, and it really depends on the specifics of a game if you can do some of these types of strategies and how effective they're going to be. Depends on how many woodworkers he made, at the beginning. How fast he wants to tech, all these things. If he has, if he replaces those woodworkers, it's not nearly as bad for him to, pull 2 off to repair that farm. Whereas, as it went, 3 peasants killed, 2 peasants repairing for most of the time. That's like losing 5 peasants on his wood income. So that's significant. So, but anyway, that's gonna be the end of this game. This audio commentary. I really found it somewhat informative. A little bit of a different twist on sort of standard strategies, at least first heroes and such. So, me doing the tower push is sort of the twist. So, but anyway, that's going to be the end of this one, and this is ScryMind signing out.